We tend to think of legends as these unchanging things, right? Carved in stone. But what if the strongest legends are actually the ones that get broken and then put back together? Well, that's exactly what this story is about. It's a parable, really, that digs into the strange, sometimes violent, but absolutely brilliant evolution of a very specific hero, Marvel's Captain Britain. And it shows us why sometimes a hero has to be torn all the way down before they can really be built up. So, our story kicks off just like you'd expect, once upon a time. But pay attention to the details here. It's not just any kingdom, it's a smog-covered kingdom. Right away, you know this isn't some generic sunny fantasy land. Nope, this is Britain. And from the jump, you get this feeling of a place that's, well, a little tired, a little gray, and really, really needs a hero of its own. So, let's talk about our hero's beginnings. They're actually pretty quaint, really grounded. He wasn't born from some ancient prophecy or anything like that. He didn't fall from the heavens. See, in the world of comics, his origin was way more deliberate. He was created for a very, very specific reason. And the motivation behind him? It's actually fascinating. The Kingdom's scribes, and in our real world, that was Marvel's UK division back in the 70s, they were getting tired of just reprinting stories from that sunny land across the sea, which, come on, is a pretty clear nod to America, right? They wanted a champion that felt like he was theirs, so that's what they did. They created a young knight, not decked out in star-spangled spandex, but in a simple tunic. He was made to be relatable, just a local guy protecting his small corner of the world. And this is the key thing to get about his early days. People didn't love him for some crazy, world-shattering power. Nah, he was quiet, He stuck close to home. Fans saw him as charming, maybe a little bit goofy. He wasn't just their guardian, he was their neighbor. It was this comfortable, easy relationship. But, as we're about to find out, comfort doesn't last. Then, of course, the world started to change. The stories got darker, more serious. And the kingdom, well, they decided their simple, charming knight just wasn't going to cut it anymore. It was time for a major upgrade. Time for him to be forged for a much more dangerous and way more complex era of storytelling. Now, this transformation, it was way more than just a costume change. First off, his whole purpose shifted. He wasn't just the local guy anymore. Suddenly, he's on the front lines, fighting these huge existential threats. Second, yeah, he gets a new armor, a slick, redesigned suit that just screamed power. But look at what else came with it. This power had a massive cost. He was forced to see the darker truths of his world, and that brought on this deep, profound isolation. He wasn't the friendly neighbor anymore. He became something else. And this quote just hits it home, right? It really shows how final that change was. The quaint protector, that charming hero they started with, he was just gone. Poof. And in his place stood this warrior. Sure, he was powerful, and yeah, he was necessary, but he was also distant. He was burdened by the very power that was supposed to save everyone. He became what the new comics era needed, but in the process, he kind of lost who he was. So just when you think the story's found its new groove, nope. Everything's about to get flipped completely upside down. This is where we get to the most dramatic part, the unmaking of a hero. And it all kicks off with the arrival of a new storyteller, a mysterious figure they call the Chronicler. Okay, so who is this Chronicler? Well, he's not a king, he's not a wizard. He's an observer, a writer. And in the context of our parable, he represents the one and only Alan Moore. His mind just worked differently. He didn't just take the story as it was. Oh no, he questioned everything. He was the guy who could see the hidden cracks in reality that everybody else just papered over. And let me tell you, in storytelling, the person who can see the cracks is the person who can break the whole world wide open. And what does he do with that vision? He doesn't just cook up another big monster for our hero to punch. No, he introduces something way, way more terrifying. An entity called the Fury. It's this silent, relentless thing whose entire purpose isn't just to beat heroes, but to methodically erase them, wipe them from existence. This isn't just a physical threat, you guys. It's a conceptual one. It's basically a walking, talking paradox designed to unmake heroes. Which brings us to the big, horrifying question of this whole chapter. What happens next? I mean, our hero's been reforged. He's more powerful than he's ever been. But is he powerful enough to fight something that attacks the very idea of him? Seriously, how do you fight a monster whose goal is to literally delete you from the story? The answer? It's simple, it's brutal, and it's absolutely world-shattering. He couldn't. He was destroyed. The Chronicler didn't just push his hero to the limit. He killed him. Flat out. Completely. And this act just shattered the peace of the realm. It proved that all the old rules of being a hero, even the new upgraded ones, they weren't enough anymore. The kingdom's greatest champion was just gone.
But remember, this is a story about being rewritten, not erased. So the hero's destruction? That wasn't the end. It was more like a crucible, a trial by fire. And from those ashes, something totally new was about to be born. He wasn't just making a comeback. He was being redefined on a cosmic level. He was about to become a guardian of the multiverse.
And the evolution here is just staggering. Think about it. Before, he was a defender of his home, right? Protecting one tiny corner of one world. After being unmade and remade, his scope becomes infinite. He's now a guardian of all realities, a member of the Captain Britain Corps. He goes from being a simple knight to a being who was literally rebuilt from nothing. This isn't just character growth, it's a complete transcendence of what he was. So how in the world did this happen? Well, it wasn't a solo act. The Chronicler, Alan Moore, he was the one who broke the hero, sure, but he was also the one with the vision to rebuild him. And he had a partner, the artist. This represents the incredible Alan Davis. And this is such a crucial part of the story. The artist painted this new world with so much depth that the visuals were saying things the words couldn't even touch. It was this perfect harmony, a truly legendary collaboration. And what did our reborn champion learn from all of this? This whole ordeal of death and rebirth? A pretty profound lesson, actually. He learned that true power isn't about some shimmering armor or how hard you can punch. It's about accepting change. It's about having the ability to be completely broken, to stare right into the void, and to let yourself be rewritten into something brand new. So, what's the legacy here? What's left behind by a hero who was unmade and then totally remade? Well, it's the enduring power of being rewritten, not just for the character, but for the art of storytelling itself. And this really is the core idea of the whole thing. The Chronicler and the artist, through this epic saga, they showed us a universal truth. Stories aren't these fragile things you have to preserve in amber. Just like people, sometimes they have to break in order to evolve and become stronger, more powerful, and way more meaningful. But, this kind of storytelling is always disruptive. It shakes things up. The ruling council in our parable, that represents the editors, maybe even some of the readers who got really uncomfortable with this complex, dark, and challenging story. They liked the old way, simpler, safer stories where the good guy always wins easily. And that creates this fascinating tension, right? The creators pushing the boundaries against an establishment that just wants to keep things the same. So what did this new legend leave behind? Basically, a blueprint. It taught us that real strength isn't static. It's found in adapting and being reborn. It proved that renewal is possible, even after you've been completely destroyed. It made the case that the greatest stories are the ones that actually take risks. And maybe the most important lesson of all, it showed that the most powerful guardians are the ones who've stared into the darkness and actually come back. And that brings us to this final, really powerful thought. This is the ultimate legacy of our rewritten knight. Heroism isn't about being perfect or never changing. The greatest heroes, the ones whose stories really truly last, are the ones whose creators are brave enough to let them be completely, and sometimes very painfully, rewritten. It's a fascinating thing to think about, right? Especially the next time your favorite character goes through a change you never, ever saw coming.